Dear Diary, in this chapter, I want to help people discover that it is not too late for them to make an incredible change in their lives. Hello, everybody. I'm Eugene Brown, and welcome to Diary of a Stock Trader. In this chapter, this episode, it is titled, It is Never Too Late. And I am living proof of that. And so instead of today talking about stocks, crypto, mutual funds, etc., I want to be able to share some of my personal story with you in hopes that in my story, you will see some of yourself and you will find that if it wasn't too late for me, then it's certainly not too late for you. If you find that you like what we're doing each and every week, please hit the subscribe button. I will do my absolute best to add value to your life, not only financially, but personally. And if I can inspire any change or any hope in you, then whether we have 100 subscribers or we have a whole lot of subscribers, then I will have done my job. So at age 59, I've had a healthy amount of success, which I will cover with you, but it certainly did not start that way. So again, if you can glean any value from my story, then I hope whatever you can take from it will benefit you and your family. So we'll jump right in. Um, my name is Eugene Brown. And I'm married. I've been married 20 years to my wife, Brandy. We have four children, 18 and under. I'm 59 years old. My wife is 45. So someone had to do it. It was me. I started late in life with children. We've had four children together. And I have a degree in marketing, graduate from the University of Tampa. I make my home here in the Carolinas. I've been in the Carolinas for about 33 years, and I work from the house. Now I focus once again on moving money full time. But if we go all the way back, let's start from the beginning. My father was in the military. He was a 30-year Army man. And my mother was pregnant with me by a man that she knew. And while my father, who was not her husband at the time, was in Vietnam, my mom got pregnant. And when my dad, who gave me his name, came home from Vietnam, he said, Paulette, I love you. I'll name the baby after me. So I'm Junior. And so we lived in Germany at the time. And with the military life, one would expect that we would travel around a bit. We went from Germany, I think, to Kentucky, to North Carolina, to eventually Indiana, and eventually back home. And along the way, there was a lot of ups and downs with my mom and dad. My dad suffered from PTSD, certainly the ills of being in war and seeing people shot, killed, and all the things that come along with that. Lots of marital problems between my mother and father. We didn't have much, but we certainly had enough of what we needed. And after my mother and father separated, I found me, my brothers, and my sister. We moved to my hometown of Altoona, Pennsylvania. I was there for fourth, fifth, and sixth, part of sixth, because we moved back to New Jersey. And then, we moved eventually back to Altoona because, my mother and father got a divorce. And while we were in Altoona, we didn't have a house. We lived in probably Section 8 housing, apartment complex that was old, but we were happy. And while we were there, my mother experienced a lot of financial hardship as well as emotional problems. I'm sure she suffered from depression, anxiety, a whole host of things. My mother ended up dying at the age of 58. And I remember calling the police on my own mother because there was a point we didn't have any food in the house. My younger brother was a diabetic and he didn't have any insulin. So, suffice to say, that didn't last too much longer. And my younger brother and my younger sister went to live in Alabama with my dad, who at the time was active duty military. And so it was my older brother who had his own challenges, and myself at the house with my mom, who was struggling in a lot of ways. And thankfully, we got through it. You know, there was enough training from my dad and mother that certainly I knew right from wrong, even though I did some things, not nothing serious, but just doing things at an age that I had no business doing them, such as drinking alcohol at a young age. Um, and then um, my mother pretty much just kept fading mentally because she also had dementia. So I was free to do pretty much what I wanted to do. When I was in high school, I was an advanced academic student who did too many things and would have to skip school on a Monday to start to get his schoolwork done, his advanced placement classes finished. So upon graduating from high school, I knew that we didn't have the college money. I believe at the time my dad might even have been overseas. And so I joined the Army following my father's footsteps for the GI Bill, which allowed me to go to school afterwards. So I joined for the college money because I was a good student, and college seemed like it was the right thing to do. Certainly that's what they sold you on back in the day, and certainly in today's time. So I joined the military. I received an active duty ROTC scholarship while on active duty, in case you guys are not familiar with the terms, and got out after about a year and a half. Went to Penn State, main campus, and then graduated from the University of Tampa with a degree in marketing. After graduation, I went to Air Assault School and Airborne School and was going to go to Ranger School, but the first Gulf War started. And so I went to Germany, which was my first choice. And while I was in service, first Gulf War was going on back in 1990. And I learned some things about investing. And one of my civilian supervisors, I was a young lieutenant and I was a postal officer. And one of my civilian supervisors said, you know, LT, do you know anything about money? Do you know anything about investing? And I knew just a little bit. And he said, well, hey, me and the missus, his wife was a captain, active duty, he was a civilian, would like to have you over for some dinner and we'll talk a little bit about money. So, you know, he's older than me. He was looking out for me and set my path towards investing, which had already been interested in. Because if you think about the time frame and the years that I'm talking about, 1990, prior to 1990 was the crash of 1987 in the stock market. And I was in college at the time. So I remember Microsoft being under $1 a share a long, 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 long time ago. And so, you know, helping set my path on, you know, better footing, more of a solid ground. I did a lot with mutual funds. I remember back in the day doing, you know, a lot of T. Rowe Price and Janus funds and all of the things. And got out of the military, came to the Charlotte area. A couple of buddies of mine from my hometown lived here. And I proceeded to really just try to get my feet on the ground. I was all over the place. Had a good background, because I was a young officer. I served my country. I had a degree. Getting into some jobs weren't that difficult, but just try to figure out what I wanted to do. And, I just up and down, guys, all over the place, changing jobs. Eventually, I worked for the Vanguard Group, which I was an investor's information rep. So that was just simply answering phone calls, talking to people about their accounts, suggesting some of our mutual funds that they might consider, giving account information. And, from there, I eventually tested for my Series 7, which is your stocks, bonds, mutual funds, etc. It was a 6-hour exam. Passed that and, had some insurance licenses and the like, and went to work for Ameriprise Financial Services as a financial planner. Um, did that for a very short period of time. I was a young guy trying to build a client base in a city that was growing. The Charlotte region had what was called Nations Bank at the time. And and then that bank switched its name to Bank of America. And this whole area grew and grew and grew some more. But while it was growing, I certainly was learning things, but never again decided on a home, Let me stick with this particular industry. Again, I was all over the place. And eventually I found myself married, and we were working on an online platform, we as in me and about 4 or 5 other people. And at the time, I thought it was a good idea to drive for Uber because Uber allowed me to control my own schedule. Obviously, I could turn the app off if I didn't want to, to be involved in the ride share business. And COVID eventually hit, and there was a lot of worry. A number of people were getting sick. And in that moment, I certainly realized I could not be in a car with people who were maybe have been exposed, people flying in and out of airports. I'm picking people up. You don't know where people have been. I may have been, they may have been exposed to the virus. And because I have a daughter who had some challenges lung wise, nothing too serious, but she was susceptible to getting sick. I thought it was the right decision for me not to drive. But the question was, what would I do? My my background was all over the place. I'm in and out of jobs. It's a bit of a problem when that was your track record. And so the stock market was falling, and there was a lot of fear in a lot of places. And I had some calls from some friends, a few, and some family members asking me, what should they buy in this market? And I had given them some good advice, buy the cruise lines, buy the airlines, buy the banks, buy the technology stocks that have been beaten down. And that turned out to be really good advice because the market recovered big time. I believe it was March, April timeframe of 2020. But right before that and during all of that, I said, it would be great for me to have some money to invest because there's a saying, you guys, and that is when there's blood on the streets, that's really when you really need to get in there and invest. And obviously what that means is when there's a lot of problems, stock prices are depressed, there's a lot of gloom and doom and the sky is falling. That is when you need to get in there and begin to invest money. And so what I did, I ended up taking $477. Yes, I said 400, not 4,000, $477 and started to invest. And I later added about $4,500 to that. So I had about a total of $5,000 in the market. I would rob Peter, sometimes taking away from the bills, to before the bills were due to put into the market. And there was a point where I grew my balance to about $19,000. And I showed my wife over dinner. I think it was near our anniversary and or her birthday, one or the other. She saw how much money we had. She said, "Hey, let's pay some bills off." And I was like, "No," because in that moment, I realized I knew or had a real good idea of what I was doing. And then I grew the balance to 33,000. And I remember us sitting on the bed when it was 99,900 and some change. And we were looking at the computer and watched it roll over to $100,000. And I think you guys, for me, that was the most exciting moment was just seeing it go to $100,000. I had never had $100,000 before. And even though later on I made a lot more money, I really think the highlight of the journey was just getting to $100,000. So it was a neat moment between my wife and I. And so I kept going, and you can watch the video in my Linktree link. You can click on it. One of the first videos the first video you'll come to in the Linktree is about the money. It's a YouTube video that shows the money. So took the balance to about 2.4 million in 11 months total, which is it's unheard of. But a lot of times you got to be in the right place at the right time with the right strategy and a willingness to go and get it. And so we went from a 1,400 square foot home in North Carolina that was in ill repair, it needed a lot. It needed new windows, needed a crack in the driveway, it needed a new front door, it needed concrete up front, it needed bushes, it needed some landscaping and lawn repair, it needed new carpet, it needed a lot. But we kept it clean, we kept it as nice as we could make it, and it was one of the smaller homes in the neighborhood, and we didn't have any money to really make it any better. And so when I started making some money, we also knew we needed a bigger home. So we sold our house in a day. It was less than 24 hours. I lived in a hotel for about 6 weeks, and my wife and half the family were with her mother, and we were building a house. And it's the house that I'm in now. It's almost 5,000 square feet, 6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms. And all of that came from moving money. And what I want to impress upon you is that it's never too late. It's never too late. I'm 59 years old. This whole thing began when I was 50. And so if you're a young person watching this, I would encourage you, don't wait until you're 50 to get started. Don't wait until you're 50 to get serious. Don't wait until you're 50 to find clarity and direction and passion. And if you're someone who's 30 plus, up to maybe even age 70, and you're trying to, make the second half. Obviously, if you're age 70, you're well beyond a second half. But if you're 40 and you're trying to make that second half better than the first half, then I would tell you that it's very, very possible. And it's something that everybody can do. And I've had an up and down background, an up and down childhood, an up and down everything. But eventually, eventually I grew up more. Eventually I became more serious about what I was doing. And when skill meets opportunity and desire and passion, and you combine all that stuff and you shake it up and you put it in a box, and you finally become a bit more mature, more focused, more disciplined, you can find that you can do anything you put your mind to. And I know this because I'm living proof of it. And at age 59, if I have hopefully 30, 40 years left, my goal is to be around at minimum for another 30 years, which would take me to age 89, because I have a daughter who's only 11. And I want to ensure that I'm in my right mind, that I'm fit enough, that I could give her love and good counsel and be there for her, as well as my other children, uh, when she is now a woman in her very early 40s. And so believing that is possible, having that as a goal to be there for her, goes right hand in hand with anything that you yourself may be working on. Believing, having a goal that the second half of whatever you're working on can be just as good or better than the first half. And so the podcast it's all about life and money and decision making and encouragement and hope and fire and passion. It's about discipline. It's about mindset. It's about all those things that can help somebody along the way. I really don't care too much if it's a show or a podcast that has 1 million subscribers or it has 1,000 subscribers. If at the end of the day, a number of people say, you inspired me along the way, or you helped me along the way, or you taught me something along the way. There's a lot for me to learn. Man, the more I learn, the more I realize how little I know. But I will keep moving the ball forward and keep trying to be better each and every week in everything that I do, spiritually, physically, financially, emotionally. I need to be a man that is good for my wife, a man that is good for my kids, and someone who does more than just look out for self. Do I have coaching offers? I do. I help people learn how to trade in a very systematic, a very structured way. It's not what this is about today. If that interests you, by all means, see the description box. What I want every week, maybe it's a couple of times a week, is to provide you with a school of thought that goes beyond just money. And if I can do that, then I think the show, these chapters, everything will have been well worth the time that it takes to do that. So that's what the show is going to be about. I thank you so much for being here. Hit the subscribe button for me if you would. I promise I'm going to do everything in my power as we move the ball forward to create a lot of value for you. I will say something about stocks, because if I don't, then that doesn't seem like it makes as much sense. In a show about the diary of a stock trader, I will say today, Monday, has been all about just kind of looking around, trying to find some names that have good setups. We'll talk about what that means. We'll get into technical and fundamental analysis. I will eventually talk to you about the pitfalls to trading, the psychology of trading. We'll get into risk management. We'll get into how you create scans, what type of stocks may make good stocks for you to buy. How do you qualify those names and how do you enter and exit them in a way that will usually lead you to be profitable. And I've been doing it for a good long while. I took a break. I reached out to USAA and told them I wanted to leverage my money. And they said, you don't have any W-2 income. So at the time, they told me I needed W-2 income because I needed a way to check the boxes for the bank to pay back the loan to borrow against my own money. So I took a job at a school and absolutely fell in love with the people, with the kids, and with the value that it brought, not only to them, but certainly to myself. I felt very, very valued there. And so I did that for 4 years. And now I've transitioned back to full-time trading because I just felt like it was time to get back to business. And so, again, welcome to the Diary of a Stock Trader. Today was chapter 1, and I hope moving forward that I will record a video, which will include a whole lot, obviously, to include stock stuff and specifics and charts and all the things. But today was just to introduce myself and tell you what's coming ahead. Anyways, remember, let me see, I wrote a little note and see if I can remember how to wrap this up. I'll get better at wrapping this up. And that is, bear with me, that is, yeah, that is all the things. And that is, you know, we'll build these chapters week by week, but just remember that life is far more important than money. What's important in life is to be happy, to be healthy. And if you can make some money and some good financial decisions along the way that put your family in a favorable position, that is also a good thing. And it's a very learnable skill. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for being here.